Vandami Bante, and good evening, everyone, and good morning to everyone in the West Hemisphere. So, welcome to today's session on Four Elements. I'm Irung, and I'm today's meeting's co-host, and we'll be helping Bante and everyone in today's session. May we invite Bante to start teaching, and also invite interpreter Bante to start the translation. Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
We will pay homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. So we have to start 4 elements today. So the 4 element is the very beginning of Vipassana. We can also understand like this, that it also can be the samatha practice. How it can be both samatha and vipassana? It will be a big question. So when we study the 38 subjects or 40 subjects of samatha, one of them is 4 elements. In Pali, we call Chatu Dhatu Avatana. When we are practicing the one in the very beginning, before we start seeing the nimitta, or before we can discern rupakalpas and 4 elements in the rupakalpas, it can be samatha. When we are practicing discerning on 4 elements on the kalpas, it can be very beginning of vipassana. So whoever practice vipassana, the Buddha will instruct him or her the 4 elements meditation as foundation. It can be brief method, it also can be a detailed method. But today, we have to introduce how to discern 4 elements in the body, or what are really called 4 elements. So 4 elements are very common in Buddha's teaching. From time to time, the Buddha also explained 6 elements, including space element and consciousness element. So now we will start talking about 4 elements. The first one is Paṭavi Dhatu, earth element. So when we are going to talk about the earth element, we have to know how many characteristics of earth element. If we know the characteristics of earth element, we will know how to discern it. So there are 6 characteristics of earth elements. They are hardness, roughness, heaviness, softness, smoothness, and lightness. So these are the order of elements. But when we are practicing, we can also choose easier one first. After that, we can discern difficult one. Here I will explain orderly. The first one is hardness. When we are going to discern hardness among the earth elements, we can start discerning from our teeth. If we touch our teeth slightly, we can feel hardness of the teeth. Now we can discern hardness all over the body. If we can discern naturally, then we can discern well. If we try to force too much, there will be very much stiffness and hardness all over the body. We will feel discomfort. So we have to understand that if we feel something discomfort when we are discerning 4 elements, That means it's unnatural. When we are discerning naturally, we can feel free and comfortable. So now hardness in the body. If we discern naturally and normally, that means don't make your body very hot or very much tense. It should be natural hardness. Sorry. For example, the hardness in the teeth and the hardness in the flesh or in the bone will be different. We must discern natural hardness. There will be different degree, different types of hardness, trying to feel or trying to see or trying to know it naturally. The second one is roughness. If we rough our teeth with our tongue, we can feel roughness. So we can discern roughness in all over the body, part by part, or overall, or overview. If we try to discern roughness all over the body, part by part, naturally, finally you will feel like a hair rising or something similar to that. This means you are successful in discerning roughness in the body. As long as you can know roughness naturally, don't make it stronger. If you make it stronger, you have to put extra efforts, more efforts. Then you cannot feel free and comfortable. Okay, next one, heaviness. If we keep our head and body straight, especially if we keep our body straight, the explanation of our lower body parts is pressed by upper body parts. We can feel heaviness. If we put our hands on the knees, press a little bit, we can also feel heaviness on the knee. Now we can discern heaviness all about the body. Trying to feel it, trying to see it naturally. Don't force, don't create anything. So these three, hardness, roughness, heaviness, are very strong and gross elements. The contrary to these three, there will be another three. They are softness. This is opposite of hardness. So softness, when we press our inner lip with our tongue, we can feel softness of the lip. So if we can feel softness of the lip, there's some softness on the lip. After that, there's some part by part, all over the body. It must be natural. We have natural softness in every body part. So if there's no hardness, there must be softness. Then again, smoothness. It's contrary, opposite of roughness. If we rough our inner lip with our tongue, that's a rough lip with the tongue, we can feel smoothness of the lip. Then we can discern smoothness all over the body, part by part. It must be natural. Then finally, lightness. If we lift our finger slightly, only one finger like this, again and again, we can feel lightness of the finger. We can also feel lightness of the body. So these three, softness, smoothness, lightness, are a little bit better to discern. You may feel more comfortable to discern these three. If you have very excessive hardness, roughness, and heaviness, you can discern these three again and again. Then you can overcome excessive hardness, roughness, and heaviness. So this is the first part we have to explain as earth elements. As I have said before, when we are going to discern easier one to difficult one is also okay. But later you have to change the order. Now next one, Apo Dhatu, water element. So in the water element, there are two characteristics of water elements. Then they are flowing and cohesion. Flowing is the first element we have to discern. So we can discern flowing inside the mouth. Saliva flowing. If we are sweaty, we can also know the sweat flowing. Blood flowing in the blood vessel. This is also called flowing. We can also understand another way, like it's separating all over the body. This is also called flowing. It will spread everywhere in the body, any body part. So if we can discern flowing clearly, we can also discern cohesion. If we grasp our hands a little bit tight, we can feel stiffness or cohesion. Discern cohesion from the hands, after that, discern all over the body, part by part. If we're trying to make it very strong, we may feel discomfort. That is why it should be natural cohesion all over the body. If you feel like you are tied up with very strong cloth or very strong like a leather sheets or like a, what do you want to do? The rubber, right? Leather sheet or rubber like this, and it will be very terrible. That's why you should save your energy to know the cohesion. So there are only two characteristics of water element. They are flowing and cohesion. We can discern alternatively. Then the next one, Tejo Dhatu, fire element. So we have known the nature of fire is heat, right? So here we have two characteristics of fire element. They are heat and cold. To discern these two, we have to grasp our hands. If we grasp our hands, one hand will be cold and one hand will be warm. You can practically feel it. You can discern cold from, or you can discern heat from one hand. If you feel warm there, then discern all over the body, part by part. So don't forcefully make it heat. It must be natural heat in the body. Then again, cold. You can discern in one hand, there's a coldness there. Discern all over the body. Then you can start from the very beginning to, for example, like hardness, roughness, heaviness, everything, up to heat and cold. All the things one by one. So finally, we have Vayu Dhatu, one element. In one element also, we have two characteristics. They are supporting and pushing. So when we keep our head and body straight, our backbones support each other to keep straight. Or if we bend a little bit forward or backward, our lower body parts support upper body parts, not to fall down. This is called supporting. Supporting can be everybody in every body part. We can understand supporting in any body parts, powering parts, or overall. Then finally, pushing. So when we are breathing and breathing out, our abdomen is falling and rising because of pushing. Then when we breathe in, our in-breath also push our nostril to the middle of the head. We can do some portion from the breathing and breathing out up to the middle of the head. This is also the very clear and very obvious object. So when we are going to practice, we can choose easier one to difficult one. Actually, this is only I just mentioned orderly. But when we really teach, we start with portion. After that, hardness, roughness, heaviness. Then we can also say like a supporting, then softness, smoothness, lightness. Then after that, we have the flowing and cohesion, then heat and cold. We just give this order in the very beginning to make it easier. So in the very beginning, we can choose any order. We can start from easier one. As long as we can design naturally and normally, it will be okay. But sometimes some of the elements become very excessive. We'll feel discomfort. From time to time, we can skip this element. So this is the first part we have to know about 4 elements. Again, how to descend. So there are some questionnaires. How to descend 4 elements? Should we do orderly, or can we skip, or like can we jump? There are many questions about 4 elements. So I have already talked about how to descend normally or naturally, but this one is some other theory or some other things you have to know about descent. The first one, anupuvato, in order. You have to descend 4 elements in order. Earth element, water element, fire element, 1 element. Don't change the order. So if we change the order, later it will be very messy. That's why just descend orderly. This is the first thing we have to know. Now, one more thing here. There are 6 characteristics of earth elements. What about descending only 3? It can be okay. But if we can descend all these 6 characteristics, it's much better. Complete version is the best. It must be natural. We will become more skillful. Then again, Nadi Sikato, not too fast. So if we descend very quickly or very fast, some more elements become unclear. So sometimes people also ask, how long should we descend? So if you can descend only a few seconds in one element, it's much better. If you descend very long time, if you descend many minutes, then elements become very excessive. So maybe at least 1 or 2 minutes, not that much bad. If you can do shorter than that, much better. Then here again, Nadi Sanikato, not too slow. So not too fast, not too slow. That means if we descend very slow, some of them become excessive. If we descend very fast, some elements become unclear. We have to adjust the speed of descent. As long as we can descend naturally and clearly, okay. If you can descend one element clearly, go to another one. If you can descend one characteristics clearly, go to another characteristics easily. So this is the way we have to descend. Then again, we have Vikipa Patibhana door, warding off distractions. So if our mind keep knowing 4 elements continuously, we may have no thoughts, no distractions. If we cannot know four elements continuously, then there will be thoughts. So we have to train ourselves to keep knowing four elements one after another. Then again, we have Panyati Samadhi Kamanato, going beyond the concepts. Yeah, the concepts mean we must go beyond the concepts of the tongue or teeth or body parts or anything. We must try to know the nature of elements, or the hardness. We can know only pure hardness without knowing any body parts. It's much better. Similarly, roughness, heaviness, any characteristics, if we just know natural elements without knowing the body parts. This is it. Panyati Samadhi Kamanato. We must go beyond the concepts. We must know the elements. Then here, so here Anupatthana Mochanato, discarding the unclear. Okay, for example, in the very beginning, when we discern four elements, we will start off with hardness, roughness, heaviness, softness, smoothness, lightness, among the 6 of earth elements. If some of them are unclear, we can skip the one. Just discern forwards. So as long as we can know some other elements and some other characteristics in the other elements is good enough. If 1 or 2 is unclear, skip the one. But when you redo the next round, you can try all the 6 as much as you can. If it's unclear, you can skip again, no problem. Then again, Lakhanato, discerning the characteristics. That means we have to discern only characteristics. We don't need to think about many others, right? So for example, sometimes we may talk about like a hardness of bone, hardness of teeth, not like this. Purely characteristics. This is called Lakhanato. We must try to know all these things one after another. This is the very beginning of 4 elements. So now, if we review all these suggestions, we must discern orderly, neither too fast, not too slow. Then we can skip. We must keep knowing the 4 elements without knowing any other things. We must discern going between the concept. We must discern the elements going between the concept. Then we have to discard the unclear. We have to discern only the characteristics of the element. These are the recommendations for practitioners. Then finally, 3 discourses. So here I have to explain the 3 discourses one by one. It depends on our skill. So we may have many different types of improvements when we discern 4 elements. Okay, now I have to introduce some of the practice. For newly practitioners, we recommend to practice 4 elements or the 12 characteristics one after another. In the very beginning, we have easier order. Later, we have to change orderly, as given in the list now. So after that, if we can discern very well, or the 12, one after another, then for very beginners, sometimes discerning 12 is very difficult for them. It takes very long. So we also change the system. Just choose 1 characteristics in 1 element. For example, hardness in earth elements, flowing in water element from water element, then heat from fire element, and supporting from wind element. They're trying to discern only the four: hardness, flowing, heat, supporting, like this. Only four, one after another. If we can discern like this, then all elements become clearer, although we can discern a little bit faster. So if they have difficulty in discerning hardness, okay, discern roughness. Roughness, flowing, heat, pushing, so supporting. But sometimes they have difficulty to discern flowing. Okay, they can also discern cohesion. It doesn't matter. Chain. But if you have known, you have arranged, if you can discern well, don't change the order. Keep discern only the same order, one after another. We must know which element is clearer and better for ourselves. If we can know which one is clear and better for ourselves, we can practice better and better. Okay, now we have to talk about 3 discourses. The first one is the Aditita Sutta. Usually, we also call the one as, also called Nimitta Sutta. This is from Anguttara Nikaya. From time to time, people also ask, is there any discourses taught by the Buddha about Nirvana, about Nimitta? Because we Paudaya meditation teacher talk about Nimitta too much, right? Then many people also ask, they also have doubts about Nimitta. This is from the commentary or Pali Canon. Yes, we have to prove it's from Pali Canon. So this one is from Book 3. We can also find as Nimitta Sutta, but we also call it as Aditita Sutta. So in that discourse, the Buddha recommended his disciple from time to time developing one of the 3 signs. Right? We have to discern these 3 from time to time. So the first one is Samadhi Nimitta. What does it mean, Samadhi Nimitta? We also say sign of concentration. So Samadhi itself also can be considered as Nimitta. That's why we have to talk about, we have to talk about Samadhi Nimitta. Then we also have to know the next one. The one is Pekkha Nimitta, sign of a certain energy. So what should we do with these 3? The next one is the Ubbekha Nimitta. So that means from time to time, we have to develop concentration. From time to time, we have to develop sign of energy, a certain energy. But from time to time, we also have to develop equanimity. So if we know how to develop one of the 3, we can improve. So we have to talk about this one first, right? So first, Samadhi Nimitta. If we cannot develop Samadhi Nimitta, we may a lot of restlessness. That's why we have to develop Samadhi Nimitta. The Pekkha Nimitta. If we try to make very strong energy also, there will be restlessness, a lot of thoughts. Also, we feel very tired. Especially when we have very weak and very strong laziness, we have to develop this sign of concentration. Sign of Bodybag Animator, The equanimity. Sometimes if we are too active in practicing, then this also can be some problem. That's why we have to do equanimity. So that means when we are lazy, we need more energy. When we are too active, we need more equanimity. That's why from time to time, we have to balance ourselves by developing one of these three. So if we cannot develop one of these three, we cannot be skillful in practicing 4 elements, then we cannot develop ourselves. That's why the Buddha recommended one of these three sign of one of these three signs. Now we have the next one, Siti Bhava Sutta. So this one is also really similar to previous one. They also call Anuttara Siti Bhava Sutta. This is also from Anguttara Nikaya. So there are 6 things to calm down the mind. So we can know how to calm down our minds when we are meditating. There are some meditators, they also ask me, how to calm down our minds? There are many ways to calm down our minds. But here the Buddha recommended 6 ways to calm down our minds. Then the first one, the mind should be revoked when necessary. We can also understand another way, the mind should be subsided when necessary. So I have already said in previous discourse, sometimes our mind is too active. From time to time, we have to subside the mind. So, how to do that one? Actually, there will be some in the next discourse about the developing 7 enlightenment factors. So sometimes, like we are going to make a fire, but then we just made a lot of water or wet grass, wet clothes, wet woods, they cannot make fire. If we want to make fire, we must put into the water, grass or the drying grass, drying woods, or some fuel or petrol, anything, any gas, anything, then we can make fire. Similarly, there are some conditions we have to subside our mind, especially with a lot of eagerness or a lot of joy, then we have to subside our mind. We have to calm down our mind. If we have a lot of rapture, a lot of joy, our mind will incline to it too much. Our mind will follow it. Then we cannot get back our concentration easily. It happens to many meditators. Sometimes when we can practice very well, we feel joy, rapture, tranquility, delight, pleasant feeling. From time to time, our mind will incline to that pleasant feeling. It can be disturbance. That's why when we have a lot of pleasure, joy, or rapture, now we have to subside our mind to keep knowing the meditation subject. Here, in this case, we have to discern 4 elements. Don't follow don't follow any rapture, joy, or pleasant feeling. Most people like the pleasant feeling. That's why they follow it. Then it make their improvement slower. This is the first part we have to know. From time to time, we have to subside our mind. Okay? Then again, the mind should be excited when necessary. That means we have to put more energy. As I have said in previous discourse, when we are lazy or almost very active or sluggish, then sometimes drowsy, then we have to put more energy, put a little bit more effort. Keep body and straight, keep body and head straight. Also make a little bit more energy to overcome drowsiness, laziness. Then when we can overcome it, do normally. So we must be wise to improve ourselves. So sometimes if we are lazy, we just follow the thoughts. It will be whole section, only the thoughts, no more improvement. So sometimes when we are lazy, if we cannot improve, because of laziness, we cannot improve anymore. Naturally, we are lazy, then we follow laziness, no more improvement. We have to make more efforts, or we have to exert energy whenever necessary, especially when we are lazy or sluggish or drowsy. Then again, we have the next one. The mind should be gladdened when necessary. This is also important. From time to time, we have to make our minds happy. Right? So if we can make our mind happy, then sure we can improve faster and better. How to make my mind happy? There are many ways to make mind happy. The first one is like a recollection of charity in the past, recollection of Buddha's quality. We can also make it happy. But there are some non-Buddhist meditators. For them, mostly I recommend to practice recollection of charity. Mostly people are close to the charity. They will share their food with their friends or their family, or maybe they may share, they may offer food to the poor and any types of charity. So the main thing is we can make ourselves happy by recollecting happiness when we are offering or sharing. In this way, we can also regain happiness. So for Buddhists, there are many ways to make ourselves happy, because we have many things about Buddhist knowledge. We have know many things about Buddhas. We can practice recollection of Buddha's quality, Dhamma's quality, or Sangha's quality. It also can be for the happiness of ourselves. Then we can practice, we can go back to 4-element discernment. It depends on the situations we encounter when we are practicing. Then we also have another formula. That means we also can have sense of urgency. If we have sense of urgency, we can also be diligent. For example, like a bodhisattva. When seeing an old man, he have felt sense of urgency very deeply. Then he trying to escape from aging. Similarly, when seeing a sick old man, he wants to release from sickness. He's trying to find how to be free from sickness. When seeing a dead body, he wishes to release from death. So, rebirth, aging, sickness, death. When we can recollect these things, we can also feel sense of urgency. Then we also can find, we can also reflect many other things, such as suffering in the past, suffering in the future. If we cannot make any suffering in this body life, we can be living in the hell also, right? Suffering in the hell, for example. Then suffering in this body life, we have to suffer for food every day. Then we have to reflect all these things. So the main thing is that we have to make our mind clear and happy. We have to gladden our minds. If we can gladden our minds, then our mind will be active. We can go back to the same 4 elements. So whenever necessary, we have to do it. Then again, we have the mind should be equanimous when necessary. So sometimes our minds and the meditation subjects are harmonious. Whatever elements we can know naturally, harmoniously, effortlessly. If we can know it harmoniously, effortlessly, naturally, don't struggle anymore. More equanimity towards practice. Just follow the flow of practice. We don't need to struggle anymore. If we can do this, we can maintain our concentration. If we struggle too much, we cannot maintain easily. This is also important for the meditators. Then the next one, having good inclination. So here we have to know what does it mean, good inclination. Let me remind you, good intention, good minds all the time. As soon as we have evil minds or bad minds, it can hinder our improvement. It can be a big obstacle for our practice. So this is also important for meditators. So these 6 can be possible for every meditator. Now the last one, delighting in Nirvana. This is not very easy for everyone. So if our minds always inclined to Nirvana, or mind delight in Nirvana, sure, it will be possible. So for noble person, their mind, they can enter into fruition attainments, they can enjoy the bliss of Nirvana anytime. They can feel fresh, they can regain their strength, they can also practice meditation better. It is possible. So here, Siddhi Bhava Sutta mentions 6 things to calm down our minds whenever we are practicing. So here, when we are going to practice 4 elements, we have to be the same. It must be the same. We can have to calm down our minds. After that, we have to do some 4 elements continuously. So from time to time, we have to do all these things. Okay, now, we have to go the next discourse, Bojjhanga Sutta. I think many people have known Bojjhanga Sutta. We have many Bojjhanga Suttas, but this one is from Samyutta Nikaya. How to develop Bojjhanga, 7 enlightenment fetters. So, the first one, when lazy, the meditator should develop Dhamma Vicaya Sambojjhanga. the investigations of Dhamma. So we can also develop the investigation factors. We have to investigate the noble truths, the elements, the aggregates, and so on. So if we can develop Dhammavicaya Sambhojjhanga, we can free and we can feel active. We can be energetic again. Then Viriya Sambhojjhanga, the element factor of energy. Here we have to know two types of Viriya, bodily energy and mental energy. These two are called Viriya. Now we also have many different types of Viriya. Here, for easier understanding, we have to talk about very simple Viriya. The one is when we are practicing in the very beginning, we should have initial Viriya, initial efforts. When we are encountering difficulty, we must have reinforcing efforts to overcome. Then we must make efforts. The last one is we must make efforts until to the end. We must be diligent until to the end. This is called Viriya. So if we can recall it, as I have said before, 7 element factors. This sense of urgency. If we think about sense of urgency, we will be diligent. If we know we are going to time tomorrow, we can stop all the planning tomorrow. We can quit all the plan tomorrow. We can be diligent tonight to meditate. So there are many ways to develop Viriya Sambhojjhanga. Again and again, Piti Sambhojjhanga. As I have said before, to clear our mind, we have to do Buddhanussati, Dhammanussati, Sanghanussati. Also, we can also do like a recognition of charity, morality, recognition of deity, many different things like that. The first thing is, the most important thing is to join, to feel joy or rapture. So as long as it's a wholesome things to reflect, we can feel joy, and it's okay. After recording many bad things or unwholesome things, if we feel joy, it can be very big obstacle to improve meditation. Meditation is to cut defilements. But doing many evil things is following defilements. These two are opposites. So in brief, when we are lazy or sluggish, we have to develop 3 enlightenment factors: Dhammavicaya, the investigation; Viriya, the energy or the efforts; Piti, rapture or joy. Then again, when active, the meditator should develop passaddhi, tranquility. Sometimes we are too active, too energetic. At the time, we have to develop the passaddhi, tranquility, a kind of peacefulness or calmness. We have to calm down our mind. Then again, samadhi sambhojjhanga, concentration. We have to develop concentration, improve concentration. So as we have said, we have to think about samadhi nimitta, right? Sign of concentration. We must be skillful in it, and we can develop samadhi sambhojjhanga. And the last one is upekkha sambhojjhanga, equanimity. I have already talked about equanimity. Equanimity towards the objects. So in every here, although we talk about Bojjhanga Sutta, 7 enlightenment factors, it doesn't mention mindfulness. Why? Yes, mindfulness is also important, but it is always needed. We cannot say excessive mindfulness. That's why we have to develop mindfulness all the time. If we are mindful enough, we can balance all these 6. Then we can improve ourselves. That's why the Buddha recommended 3 discourses. So when we are practicing any meditation subjects, here we talk about 4 elements, right? Orderly, or like neither too slow nor too fast, and so on. At the end, mention 3 discourses, because to be more skillful in 4 elements, the Buddha recommended to balance our minds and situations, everything. Okay, so now the last part, the particle. And many people also ask, when can we see the particle? Or what should we do when we see the particle? Yes, everybody knows that our body is made of particles. I think you have known scientifically. But now we have to explain according to Buddha's teaching. In Buddha's teaching, we also say 4 elements in the body, particles in the body. This body is made of particles. Then, when we can discern 4 elements systematically, as we have said before, but for example, like hardness, roughness, heaviness, softness, smoothness, lightness, 6 characteristics, then we have flowing and cohesion, heat and cold, supporting and impulsion. If we can discern orderly, easily, then how many rounds? Maybe 2 rounds a minute. If you can discern 2 rounds in a minute, that means it's good enough. If you can discern more than that, some elements become unclear. That's why we recommend it up to 2 rounds in 1 minute. Also, maybe for some meditator, okay, 2.5 rounds, okay. If faster than that, unclear. We don't recommend that kind of. We don't recommend to discern very fast. So if we can discern very clearly, also orderly, systematically, then there is also nimitta, very common nimitta, gray or smoky color in the body. In the very beginning, our body will transform. If we can discern very well, it can be gray color or it can be smoky color. This is called very common nimitta. As we have explained, 3 nimittas in every single kasina and anapanasati. Now in 4 element also, we have 3 nimittas. Then here again, ukha nimitta. This is like a white. Our body can transform like a white clouds, cotton woods. It also can be a little bit bright. Then this is called ukha nimitta. So whatever nimitta you see, keep discerning 4 elements in the nimitta. For example, if we see smoky gray all over the body, discern 4 elements on it. Then there will be some change in here. In the very beginning, we will discern part by part. Later, overview from the shoulder downwards. Discern, right? Earth element from the shoulder downwards. Similarly, water elements, fire elements, wind elements, one after another. Then grouping. After discerning earth elements, hardness, roughness, heaviness, softness, smoothness, lightness, 6 characteristics of earth elements, we discern this is an earth element. Similarly, flowing and cohesion, after discerning these 2, this is a water element. Then heat and cold, the fire element. Supporting and pushing, wind element. We can make grouping. So discern, group and groove, one after another, from the shoulder downwards. Within one glance, see hard elements, hardness all over the body, like this. Not power and part anymore. If we can descend like that continuously, sure, we can see the nimitta. Whatever nimitta we see, keep descending 4 elements systematically. Now finally, we have Bodybag Animator, the bright, translucent like block of ice and glass. This is like a very bright, translucent. Actually, very beginning of knowing and seeing, actually in previous version, you may also have read transparent. Here now we change translucent. Like a block, ice or glass. Sorry, this is a spelling mistake. Ice or glass. So it can be like a ice, also can be like glass. Then when we can see this kind of brightness, also keep designing 4 elements on it. Then in the very beginning of Dhamma talk, I have already said, from time to time, the Buddha also talk about 6 elements. One of them is space element. So after seeing that, we can design space in the translucent body. So when we can design space, in any of body part, there's a space. We can design space elements in the body, it can break down into the particles. Oh, these are also mistakes. Anyway, so after designing space elements in the translucent body, we can also see the particles. So in the very beginning, we have to design hardness in all the particles, roughness in all the particles, gradually, one after another. After designing very well, finally we can design hardness in all the clappers, hardness in one single clappers. We can alternatively design like that. Similarly, roughness in all the clappers, roughness in one clappers. We can alternative designing like that. If we can design very well again, then we can design hardness, roughness 2 together in all clappers, in one clappers, like this. So if we can design only the elements in all the 4 elements in one clappers, then we are successful. Practicing 4-element meditation. So when we can see particles and design elements in the particles, this is very beginning of Vipassana. Okay, so now this is introduction to 4-element meditation. Also, we can also understand the introductions to Vipassana. So next week, we will start Titi Visuddhi, the purifications of view, according to Buddha's teaching. So may you all be able to practice the Buddha teaching, 3 trainings, systematically. Then may you all be able to realize endless suffering, the Nirvana, the final cessations of life.
Sādhu, the first question is regarding Paticca Samuppada. It says in the Paticca Samuppada 12 links.
Okay.
Yeah. In the 12 link, avijja, paccaya sankhara, avijja is the starting factor. And then in that, it's explained that for the roots of the samsara. Hello? Sādhu, can you hear me?
I can hear. Okay. Please wait. Yeah. The
samsara.
Close, huh? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The root of samsara is avijja. And then that means the cause of suffering is avijja. This is in the 12 links. But in the Paticca Samuppada 5th method, the cause is avijja, tanha, upadana, sankhara, and karma. and also represents is a samudaya, samudaya satya. And in samudaya satya classification, it's only mentioned tanha. So that means the root of samsara and the cause of suffering. Sometimes it is said avijja, sometimes it is mentioned tanha, and sometimes it is mentioned avijja, tanha, upadana, sankhara, karma. So may Sādhu please analyze or explain these causes of suffering. Is it avijja, tanha, or only tanha as the cause of suffering?
Okay, so the Buddha explained in many different ways to many different meditators according to their conditions. For example, when we study Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta or when we study Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha will talk about tanha is the cause of suffering. But actually there are, I don't remember the name of the sutta, Anguttara Nikaya. We have one sutta. It mentioned the dependent origination is a samudaya satya. Like this. Huh? That's why. So then when we talk about, when we study like a Purification8, then it will mention avijja, tanha, upadana, sankhara, karma are the cause of Purification8, something like that. So anyway, the main thing is, when we talk about samudaya satya, there are many different explanations. As you have understand, tanha is a samudaya satya. Avijja, upadana also samudaya satya. That means defilements are also samudaya satya. All the kusala and akusala, wholesome and unwholesome dhamma, that can cause the rebirth in the samsara. This also can be considered as samudaya satya. Now, dependent origination, 12 factors are also called samudaya satya. So if we say in brief, if we say dependent origination is samudaya satya, then it covers all the methods. The first method of dependent origination, the second method, the third method, the fourth method, the fifth method, all the methods are covered by this dependent origination, right? So, okay, according to meditators' conditions, or what they need, the Buddha instructs many different things. That's why, from time to time, is different. Okay.
Yes, Sādhu, this is a question regarding paññatti. It says, according to this questioner, there are 6 conditions which could not be classified as paramattha or paññatti. And one of them are this vinaya or sila. And the others he has forgotten. So could Sādhu please explain what are the conditions which is not included in paramattha nor paññatti?
Okay, that's me. I think you misunderstand something, right? Okay, I have to explain that one a little bit more. Actually, here we talk about the Buddha's teaching, right? So that means from time to time, the Buddha didn't talk about paramattha satya. What are the conditions? So as you mentioned here, the first part, morality, sila is not paramattha, right? So that means when the Buddha talk about sila, don't talk about paramattha. This is a concept, paññatti desana. Okay, that means the Buddha talk about paññatti. For example, when we talk about living beings, don't talk about namarupa. It must be living beings. So that means namarupa kill namarupa. This is meaningless. Then people also misunderstand why. The Buddha also say anicca, dukkha, anatta, right? If we kill this also anicca, why? They might get confused. They will hold wrong view. And this is the first thing we have. The first thing we have to understand. Okay, now you also say what are the other things? Actually, we have, for example, metta. When we talk about metta, this is only living beings concept. May I be free from danger. It must not be, may namarupa be free from danger. So similarly, may all living beings be free from danger. it does not be, it must not be, may all living in the Namarupa be free from danger. Not like this. Because it's a concept. So if we talk about metta, it must be concept. It's not paramata. Then again, karuna, mudita, ubeka, 4 sublime fighting. Whenever we are practicing these 4, it must be concepts. Not only that, many of our samatha practice are also concepts. This not paramata desana, this is panyati desana. Then again, we have to understand next one, 5 mighty karma. Whenever the Buddha talk about 5 mighty karma, it must be concepts. For example, parents. Right? No parents, just namarupa. We cannot say like that. Well, parents are parents. There's a concept. Right? That's why 5 mighty karmas, it must be concepts. Buddha didn't talk about namarupa in this case. Another one is, we also say like manpower. Manpower means, okay, for example, like we can say like men actions or men's activities. For example, like we build a house. This house is built by a man or a woman. Is okay. So this might be by the power of a man or a woman. But if we talk about namarupa, this is mistakes. So this means if we have manpower or man efforts, it must be concept. So then we also have the next one. That one is it. Buddha also have to follow as people talk about the concept. For example, if the people say the tree, Buddha will not talk about Udujarupas. Buddha will say this is a tree. Right? So that means as people use in our community, we also have to use the concept in our daily life. So if we don't have concepts, people cannot understand. There's a concept is also important for our communication. So in this, okay, there are some other wisdom, but I don't remember all these things. Anyway, the main thing is, not all the Buddha teachings are paramata desana. Many of teachings are concepts. We can find many concepts in Sutta. Buddha used many different concepts. Buddha also used many concepts in Abhidhamma from time to time. Then most of the Abhidhamma are ultimate reality. For example, like Pukala Panyati, one of the Abhidhamma texts. There we can find many concepts. Then again, we have Vinaya as a sila, very clear, right? When we talk about sila, don't talk about paramata. Okay. Now I think you misunderstand. Buddha never used paramata in these conditions. Then Buddha will use concept in these conditions. Okay.
Yes, although this questioner have 5 questions about COVID virus, coronavirus. He say, coronavirus, is coronavirus one of the beings? And if he send metta to them, would that reduce the rate of changing variants? Means, and this is one question. And second, when the Buddha instructed Venerable Ananda to chant the Ratana Sutta, all the Amanusa will leave the place. Then, in this condition, for coronavirus, is coronavirus Amanusa? And by reciting Ratana Sutta, will we be able to chase them away? And the third question, when we chant Ratana Sutta, when the Ratana Sutta was chanted, Buddha's instructed Venerable Ananda to make this holy water. And this water, can we make the holy water in can we make this holy water now? And would they be effective?
Okay. Very heavy question, right? Okay, if we can radiate metta, probably, if they are living beings, possible, right? So another one is the Ratana Sutta. Actually, there are many other conditions of chanting Brita. So when we chant Brita, we must also know the meanings of the Brita, also we must also have clear and like a perfect chanting. That means no grammatical mistakes or no usage mistake like that. So we have to chant clearly. Also, we have to know the meaning. Another thing is we have to think about the welfare of the listeners. So these are the conditions for the reciter. Then if we can have all these conditions, and then we have now one more thing, not expecting the gain or the return. So if we don't expect anything return, then it will be okay. It will be like effective. Okay, so we can chant. Even actually we chant every night in our monastery. So far, okay, right? So far we are okay. We don't have any coronavirus incident, especially in my monastery. So for about holy water, actually, whenever we chant Prita in our monastery, then sometimes we also make water. So this is also possible, but we cannot know, right? There are many other conditions, situation from the listener also. For example, like a listener must believe in Prita. If they don't believe, also not effective. Another thing is, like they must not make very heavy mistake like a mighty karma, right? So they must be free from wrong view. So if they don't have wrong view, or if they have very strong faith in Buddha, or if they are free from mighty karma, if they were never done by mighty karma, then it will be effective. This from the listener sides. If we have all these situations, okay, holy water can be effective, right? If non-human being also, we can read metta, then okay, we can also splash water, then they can run away, no problem. It's possible, okay? Yeah.
Question number 4 also regarding coronavirus. When the Buddha teaches to chant the Ratana Sutta, what is the cause that lead to the end of the pandemic or the epidemic? Means by chanting Ratana, what is really caused the disappearing of the epidemic? And then the fifth question. The fifth question is during the pandemic, what should the Buddhists do in order to make the pandemic end earlier?
Okay. So that means now we just recommend, right? Just follow the rules and regulations laid down by Ministry of Health, maybe experts, right? This is the way to overcome or the way to make end of pandemic earlier. Okay, another one is like a chanting Parita. What make ends? This is like a telling the truth. We call Sajjatitana. Actually, many operator, not only Ratana Sutta, many operator is like telling the truth. We call what is Sajja or Sajjatitana. Determine. For example, like because of telling the truth, when about this telling the truth, may all living beings be well and happy, something like that. We have this kind of determination or resolution. When you read Ratana Sutta, if you're trying to translate, understand all the meaning, you can clearly understand all these things. So all the Buddha's power, Buddha's qualities, Dhamma's qualities, Sangha's qualities, and the truths of the true nature of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, after that determine or resolute. And about this telling the truths, may living beings be well and happy, something like that. So if we can determine or make resolutions, also possible to make end.
another question regarding Brahma. In the Brahma world, those Brahma beings have Sota Dasaka Kalapa, but in order to hear sound, there must be vibration and also must have space. So for Brahma being, how they manage to hear sound if they have only Sota Dasaka Kalapa? And in Brahma world, that means in Brahma world, there will be air also. This is his question. And then second, Anapanasati. Anapanasati Kamatana, is it limited to human realm only? For Deva, can they practice Anapanasati?
Okay. Okay, sure. What about the Brahma? Like if they hear, there must be anything. If, for Brahma, if they can hear, sure, there must be space. There must be wind, sure. That's when they can hear. So if they can see, there must be the lights, right? Between the eyes and the visual objects. If there's a space between the audible object and the ear, then they can hear. But this is the natural law of listening or hearing or seeing. That's when they may have space. They must have a wind there. So now that's for second question. For human realms, we can practice Anapanasati. Sure, it's very clear. For Deva realms, they can also practice Anapanasati, very clear. But for Brahma, they don't have Kanapasara. They don't have in-breath and out-breath. That's when they cannot practice. It doesn't mean they don't have oxygen or anything, right? But they may have, but we cannot know this jhana power. We cannot know how they live in their realms. Okay, very little information about it. So, okay, according to your questions, we can understand. Okay, I have to analyze. I have to categorize. Right? The first one is in human realms, we can practice all types of samatha subjects. In the Deva realms, they cannot practice 32 body parts. Then they cannot practice repulsiveness of foods in the Deva realms. Right? Then they cannot practice the Asubha in the Deva realm because they don't have death body there. This is different from human realms. But what about Brahma worlds? Then they cannot practice Anapanasati. Then again, for immaterial Brahma worlds, they cannot practice material jhana. Right? So these are the difference between humans, devas, and Brahmas. Okay.
Sādhu mentioned the Sati Bhujanga when talking about the 7 Bhujanga, but I'm not sure if what's the definition of Sati Bhujanga, because in the 8 Noble Paths we learn about the Samasati and Sati Bhujanga are same or different, and is there any Didi Sati? And how to develop it. And the second,
Okay.
And the second question is about the Latna Sutta. In the Myanmar version, it mentions the Banja Mahabali Jagge. What does that mean? Because in Sri Lanka, we don't have this part. Also, I want to ask, this part was written by Myanmar Pali scholar or original from the Tipitaka or Tipitaka commentary? Thank you, Sādhu.
Okay. So, actually, when we talk about Sati Sambhojjhanga and Samasati, right? We can understand 2 different things. When we talk about Samasati, we will talk about 4 foundations of mindfulness. This is called Samasati. When we talk about Sati Sambhojjhanga, this is actually the way to develop. It will mention how to develop Sati Sambhojjhanga. For example, like associating with mindful person, then dissociation with like a negligent person, something like that. We have many different methods, right? Many different ways to develop mindfulness of, Sri Sambhojanga. So these two are slightly different. Another one is you talk about Radhana Sutta, right? So Paritanadopattaya, this part can be found in its commentary. Also compiled by Myanmar scholar. The first very long passage from commentary, like Panchama Parijaka, you asked this one, right? So actually there are many different explanations about Panchama Parijaka. Different commentaries say different things. Okay, I will say roughly. For example, like Anga Parijaka, he will offer his body parts, body organs. This is called Anga Parijaka. Then he also like a Dana Parijaka, right? Dana Parijaka means offer his properties. Then like a Bhariya Parijaka offering his wife, Buddha Parijaka offering his son or daughter, or this can be considered Parijaka. Finally, offering his life, Jivita Parijaka. So we have 5 Parijakas, right? There are many other different explanations of 5 Parijakas. Okay.
If someone practice the 4 elements, how to make sure all the characteristics the person's discern is paramatta and not panyati.
Okay, so if you don't feel any body parts, if you just know the elements, this is called paramatta. For example, hardness. Okay, I will say one example. Hardness of this cup. Okay, there's a hardness in this cup. So if we touch the cup, we can also feel hardness. But we cannot remove hardness from the cup. Right? But the main thing is we must make the perceptions of cup disappear. We must know pure the hardness. If we can know pure hardness, this is called paramatta. If we know many other things, like for example, together with many other things, this is not really called paramatta. Okay?
Sādhu, sometimes when someone practice 4 elements, then when he discern the characteristics, they might mix with panyati, for example, flowing, they might be panyati of flowing. So how to differentiate flowing, paramatta flowing and panyati flowing?
Okay. For example, now in the very beginning, you may know saliva flowing inside the mouth. Later, although you don't think about saliva, you can know flowing all over the body, naturally. Okay? No saliva, no blood, you can purely know the flowing. This is called paramatta. If you know blood flowing in the blood vessel, you know together with the blood and flowing, right? Flowing and blood together. So remove the blood, try to know the flowing. This is called paramatta. If you try to know like a blood or sweat or saliva, something like that, this is concept. Okay?
Another question is this 4 element practice and Qigong, according to the Chinese practice, are they the same?
I don't know. I have never tried Qigong, right?
Can he try discern the qi, the energy flow in the body called the qi, upward and downward? Would that consider flowing characteristic?
So if we trying to know flowing, then you don't need to think about qi or anything, right? It must be only flowing. This is called paramatta. If you're trying to compare with something, this is not pure 4 elements. Right? You can know some concepts. Okay?
Doing concentration, I feel inside the palm is Tejo Dhatu. That's the first question.
Okay, so that means it depends on what are you practicing, right? If you are practicing anapanasati, don't think about heat or cold in the body. It's not very important. But if you are practicing 4 elements, that is a 5 element, sure. You can decide on it. Okay?
Okay. The second question from Dhamma friend Yana Damiko. Please, Sādhu, advise and guide how to balance the 4 elements in daily life. Thank you very much.
Okay. For example, like a hardness. If we feel too hard, we can understand softness. Even in earth element, we have 6 very coarse and 6 very soft, right? So cross characteristics become excessive, we feel discomfort. If we see something discomfort, by understanding very cross characteristics, for example, hardness and softness opposites. When we feel hardness too much, there's some softness. Similarly, when we feel roughness too much, there's some smoothness. When we understand heaviness too much, there's some lightness. Like this, we can balance. Then similarly, heat and cold. If it's too hot, there's some coolness. If it's too cold, there's some heat. We can balance like this. So it depends on the situations you have. You can balance all the characteristics one by one. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And the third question, also from Dharma friend Yana Damiko. Please, Sādhu, explain. Can we say the metta is soft form of lust? Thank you very much.
Actually, metta is not lust. If we say lust, it will be disturbing for our improvement. That's why we recommend it not to practice opposite sex, right? When we are going to radiate metta, we must radiate metta to what? The same sex. We must avoid opposite sex because attachment. Because of the attachment. If we radiate metta to what? Opposite sex, then lustful mind can arise anytime. So metta and lust are opposites. Okay.
Sādhu, this question regarding the practice of Patavi Dhatu, 4 elements. For example, softness. How to discern the softness in the bone. And then the second part is if the body has a lot of humid element, humidity is very heavy in the body. Which characteristics should he practice?
Actually, okay, you have to understand 2 different ways, right? Parliament is just for developing concentration, not for health. Be careful, right? So anyway, in every single materiality, there's a softness and the hardness, different degree, right? For example, like compared to stone, bone is soft. Compared to iron, bone is soft. By comparing, we can know soft. That's why, for example, like we can compare many different things. For example, like a brick, clay brick. Before we make it dry, it's soft. After drying, before baking, it's also soft. After baking, it becomes very hot. But brick and like a wood, so some woods are harder than brick, right? Wood and iron will be harder than wood. So by comparison, we can know softness or hardness. So just trying to compare with something harder than that. Okay. So another thing is the question is.
The second question is regarding the body. If the body has a lot of humid element, very humid, humidity is very heavy in the body. Which characteristic should she practice? I think the questioner means how to balance the humidity in the.
Actually, this is not concerning with 4 element meditation, right? Humidity can be okay. Actually, I also have this kind of problem. Like in modern too much humidity, the body become very heavy, right? Not very healthy. This is about hair issue, not meditation issue. So when we are going to practice 4 elements, we must discern all the 4 elements. If we try to do only one thing very long time, it becomes excessive, then it can be very, very long time disturbance for meditator. Okay, so don't get confused with health issues and meditation issues. Okay.
Thank you, Bhante and Sādhu for all your teachings today. May we invite Bhante in leading us in sharing merits and making aspirations.
Itavata cha amehi sambadam punya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe satta numodandu sabba sambati siriya idam me nyadinam hodu sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me nyadinam hodu sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me nyadinam hodu sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me bunyam asawekaya waham hodu idam me bunyam Nirvana patiyo hodu mama bunya bagam sabasadanam bhajemi te sabe me sama punya bagam lavandu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante, and everyone for your participation today. Till we meet next Saturday, may all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.